Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Yes, I'm Biased, but Here's Why. I'm your host, Monique James. This is a podcast where we dive into polarizing topics and explore the things that influence how we feel about those topics. Dare I say, our own bias. So please, share, like, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Let's dive into today's topic.
I wonder how much of this is a competition situation. Has she grown more conservative in recent years when it comes to how women behave and should behave because she's opened doors and now the flood storm has come in and she has more competition? And by the way, this is just, me wondering, playing devil's advocate here, because she may not feel that way at all. But watching this, I sat and I wondered, maybe she isn't as helpful anymore to women in sports because she feels like her space is dwindling. And maybe she's making these types of comments because she feels less relevant.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's definitely something to wonder about. It's a question.
Every time she says something controversial, think about it. Mm-hmm. She ends up in headlines.
Yeah. And literally nobody's thinking about her as a person unless she's saying something controversial. Appreciating her work that she does in sports, sure. But nobody's talking. It's like if you watch something that she's doing on TV, you'll just watch it. And part of that is good TV journalism too. Is that She doesn't become the story, but she does it. She does a good job at that. Obviously, like you said, we don't know her thoughts, but it's a good question. Why now is that your deal? And has it been emerging over time, or was it always there and there are just more podcasts and outlets to kind of expose it, or put it out there? Not sure.
Right.
But it's definitely a good question. And so, as we think about just what she said and the fact that she talked about women being smart, I'm using air quotes, and knowing what you're doing and playing coy and not putting it all on the guys, knowing what you're doing when you put on certain clothes. Listening to that,
I really would like to understand what she means by that. If it's a matter of they want to be more noticeable on camera, right? That's kind of their job. Yeah, they know what they're doing. What exactly does she mean by they know what they're doing? What do we know that we're doing? Are you implying that we want to be sexually harassed?
See, I'm glad that you're asking the point, because you're doing a much better job at being at doing really what my goal is here, and that is to ask the why questions. I think I'm just mad today, so I'm glad that you're here. Because when I was listening to this, one thing that she said was, you know what you're doing. We know what we're doing when we put a certain outfit on, or go out with that player, or go to his room, or something like that. She said everybody sees that. She
said dinner. She didn't
go
even
to dinner.
say to his room.
She said go to dinner. Okay.
Right.
So, and she said everybody sees that. So in my mind, right, I'm thinking a woman who is a professional adult is not allowed to have dinner with another adult man without then being considered unprofessional. She can't be taken seriously at this point because she had dinner with another adult.
However, if her male counterpart went and sat at a bar and had drinks with that same male adult, there wouldn't be anything inappropriate about it.
Nothing whatsoever. The same,
right.
Perfect point. If her male colleague, TV journalist, analyst, reporter has a drink with that same athlete talking about whatever, it's not a problem at all. But there's this automatic assumption that if a woman goes to dinner with a guy, that she is, plotting or she is using her sexuality to gain some kind of advantage. And men are never accused of that. Like, ever.
Nope.
Never. So
no one goes, did you see what he was wearing?
Ever.
Did you see them gray sweatpants?
Nobody talks about the gray sweatpants.
Right.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
But what I do think is really important for people to understand is that the person doing the harassment, man or woman, the person doing it, they are responsible for their behavior, not what someone else was wearing. I don't care what a person is wearing. It does not make them responsible for the other person's behavior at the end of the day. Why is it that grown adults can't figure that out unless they choose not to figure it out?
And that's a great point, and it really takes us right to the thing that I wanted to make sure that I absolutely want to make sure that we address is that this idea that you know what you're doing. You know, when Sage said that, you know, women, we know what we're doing. Don't play coy. We know what we're doing when we put certain things on. It shifts the responsibility for preventing sexual harassment and assault to the victim of said sexual harassment and assault. Mm-hmm. And just as you just said, my clothes can never be the reason that I am harassed or assaulted. Ever.
No.
My clothes can't ever be the reason.
I mean, there are plenty of us that were sexually harassed wearing baggy jeans and, you know, a plaid button-down shirt. Isn't that what Aaliyah used to wear all the time?
Exactly. I read Gabrielle Union's book, and she talks about. It was a
great book, by the way.
It is so good. And she talks about the sexual assault that she went through as a young woman, working in retail. And when you listen to her talk on panels, and she addresses this, you know, you have to be careful about what you wear. And she said, I was in my work uniform. I had on slacks and a button-up shirt when I was raped. Like it could not have possibly been her clothes. Mm-mm. What could she have done? Because in my mind, if you say that clothes can cause sexual harassment or assault, then in my mind, the reverse is also true, that my clothes can prevent sexual harassment and sexual assault. No clothes have ever prevented a sexual harassment or assault. Ever.
No, because at the end of the day, it's not even about sexual pleasure. It's about control and power.
Absolutely. 100%.
And that speaks to how we as a society raise our young men to feel like control and power are the most important characteristics and aspects of their personality. And that's a problem. Why aren't we teaching empathy and respect and self-love and love of others? Nope. We're teaching them to be angry and to be powerful and to be controlling.
100%.
And therefore they lack self-control.
Right.
Like
right.
Let's be very real about that.
Yep.
They lack self-control because we are teaching them to control others.
And we're teaching them that they will not be held accountable for their own actions.
Exactly.
That we will not hold them accountable. They can do whatever they think is appropriate, and we will blame it on something or someone else. Mm-hmm. And I have, as much as, I mean, I've gone through this as a woman. Don't wear certain things. Don't go out late at night by yourself. Don't, say certain things. Don't do certain things. Don't look a particular way. And carry your mace.
Have you ever found yourself walking later in the evening with your like largest key between your fingers in case someone like attacks you?
Literally what I was about to just say. That is exactly it.
Every woman I know does that.
And it's like, well, I can't just only be outside when it's light out. What am I, 7? Right? Like, it's,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
no,
But it's a defense mechanism.
that is
I'm just
funny.
being
Like,
honest.
it, like the topic isn't, but that it is, it's comical to think that is the expectation, is that I should, I should take all of these precautions to make sure
And remain on guard and never slip up. Don't make a mistake.
Ever.
Don't accept a drink from a stranger.
Ever.
And don't drink too much. And yeah, I mean,
don't ever do any of those things.
Because by making a mistake and slipping up, we will, and I say this with all the sarcasm that I can muster, we will ruin someone's life who decides to rape us at our weakest moment.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes, we will.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be our fault.
It'll be our fault.
Where are the people who are saying, I need to talk to boys and men about not harassing and assaulting women? That primarily the perpetrators of sexual assault are men. Just like you said earlier, they are socialized to be powerful and to have control. And that extends to human beings and women in particular. And it's problematic on every level. But when all of the classes about all of the classes and the YouTube channels and the clips and the Instagrams and the educational programming at jobs and all of that to tell women that you have to prevent your own sexual harassment and assault. But where are these programs for men? Because what I would rather, and it's so problematic, right? Because you're also telling women that you mean so little to us culturally that we will not protect you. You have to protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you're not important enough for us to make sure that we create that we socialize ourselves to not be harmful towards you. You're not important enough for us to do that. But what we can help you with is making sure that you don't cause your own assault. Where is this education for men? One of my favorite content creators is Kevin Fredericks, or Kev on Stage. And he has 2 sons. And he talks about how the more he's learned, him and his wife, Melissa, the more they've learned, they have learned to teach their sons about things like consent, about how to conduct themselves. And I mean, these are certainly, I'm sure they were always trying to raise respectful boys, right? But like having these conversations about consent and about how that works and about how to approach and see things and their mindset and how they relate to other people, and specifically girls and women. Those conversations aren't happening in enough places when boys are young enough.
No, and it's not happening across the board with children. It's not just boys. One of the questions that my clients bring up to me a lot is, how do I talk to my kids about sex? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, how old is your kid? 11. Oh, you late. You behind the ball.
Right.
Like, you behind the 8 ball on this one, right? Or people getting really up in arms about their kids hearing or seeing the word sex, right? Like, as if that word alone is going to make your preteen sexually active.
Right.
But when we, as a society, and I'm not talking about me individually because I have these conversations differently, but as a society, when we are raising our children, we tell our daughters that when you decide that you're going to want to be with someone sexually, it's someone that you care about, wait till marriage, right? And it's all about the idea of that's someone that we care about, that cares about us, right? And then when we talk to boys about sex, we're like, wear a condom,
right? Yeah.
Don't get her pregnant,
Yeah.
Don't get a disease. And so we have no conversation with young men about emotions, consent, their emotional responsibility to themselves and to their sexual partner, right? And then when we talk to girls, we tell them to hold all the emotions. And what we create is this firestorm where girls think that anytime a young man has sexual attraction to them, they must care about them. Because they don't realize that the conversation is different.
Right.
So we stunt our boys emotionally and we overload our girls emotionally. And then where the physical comes into play, it is just a big old mess because we've already created these just emotionally unprepared individuals for the world.
I just want to repeat this quote from Mashika Asare. We stunt our boys emotionally and we overload our girls emotionally. That was a word. And what it does is it creates this space where women are again holding, it puts women in a position to have to manage it all. So this idea to, just to kind of get us back to Sage and why we're talking about this is to say things like, you know what you're doing. Not only
she's perpetuating that. She's perpetuating what society has already caused in terms of a problem.
And so it just keeps going. So male, you don't have to take any of the emotional responsibility. Little boy, teenager, man. Then you have girl, teenager, woman. It's the same thing at every stage. And so admonishment is still the same for boys. Like don't get her pregnant. But for girls, hang on to your, your purity, air quotes, purity, your virginity, all of that stuff. Hang on to all of that. But then if it is violated, or in order to prevent it from being violated, you do all the work to prevent it. You do all the work. And so, it's problematic on so many levels. I just think it's important to have these conversations because the more that we talk about it, the more that we can push the conversation into different spaces and get people to really think about, the words that we say. Sage has 2 daughters. And all I could think was, we don't say these things in a vacuum. The people that we're around and that we say we care about, they hear us. They're listening. And every time I see somebody, apologize for R. Kelly, apologize for Bill Cosby, every time I see people, blame women and put the responsibility on women for preventing sexual harassment and assault, all I can think of are the people who hear them, who may have already been victims, who aren't talking because the people around them are telling them it was their fault.
And everybody else's fault, but the person who perpetrated
exactly
the crime.
Exactly.
And it distracts from the actual problem where we're not talking about every man. When we talk about sexual harassment and assault, we're not talking about all men. We're talking about men who are actual predators, and we're talking about the men and the women that enable them. But we're not talking about all men, right?
That's it.
And like if you're not in that category, why does this bother you?
If you have an issue with words that say, let's hold perpetrators of assault accountable for assaulting their victims, you're probably an apologist. Like if that's a problem for you, if you don't think that's fair, then you're probably an apologist. And
right. You know,
and
no one ever says that, you know, you deserved for your home to be robbed because, I don't know, you don't have the most up-to-date alarm system.
Right.
No one says that.
Right.
No one says that.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to walk around, you know, fully covered. And by the way, women who are fully covered get raped.
Get raped. 100%.
One of the things that people will often bring up is, well, if you're only defending it because this is how you think, this is how you dress. So I do think it should probably be pretty clear here that I know that I don't dress quite as conservatively as you do, but you and I both actually dress pretty conservatively compared to most women our age.
For sure.
And it's based on our personal comfort level and what we like.
100%.
Right? But I will absolutely, positively cape for anyone who wants to wear a little black dress any day of the week. Okay? And because it is their right to not be sexually assaulted or harassed simply because of what they are wearing.
That's a fantastic point that you bring up. And it, you know, it's just to say that I'm not saying this because I think, you know, because I walk around I walk around scantily clad, and neither does Mashika. So that isn't it. I just think that any woman should be able to without fear of being assaulted. And
Except
that's
on the
really
beach. Except on the beach. I wear my pinup girl bikinis.
Hey.
But that's my business.
But that's your business. Dope. Well, thank you so much, Mashika. This has been a fantastic conversation. And I'm just thankful to be able to talk through this with you, and that we're going to be able to just kind of share another perspective and a different way to say, like, this is not okay. And we need to protect women and girls. And we need to have the conversations that move the needle in terms of people just understanding that being assaulted or being harassed, sexually assaulted or harassed, is not okay. And it's not on the victim to prevent it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
It was a blast. All right, y'all. That's it for us. Thank you for joining us on the Yes, I'm Biased, but Here's Why podcast, and we'll catch you next time.